BeakerBeat.
It's Monday, August 15, 2011. In this week's BeakerBeat, the FDA cuts device makers a break on prices, but is it big enough to make a difference? We'll let you know. Plus, some big pharma companies are acting like we're back in the Depression. See how many billions in cash they're hoarding. And a patch that does just about everything except help you stop smoking. Could it be the future of medical devices? All that and more in this week's edition of BeakerBeat, brought to you by Allergan. To learn more about Allergan, visit their company webpage on Beaker.com.
Previously on BeakerBeat.
One of my favorite shows, and Jeremy's, is Magnum P.I. They're not paying me that much to do this show. Come on.
Down goes Frazier!
When I was tangling with some bad guys, saving a damsel in distress.
Hang on!
Look, they cut our line.
Good times.
Nice landing. Thanks.
Hey, you missed the spot. Oh, it's dead. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice, thanks for tuning in. Well, if you joined us last week, you'll know that I had my kids clean my car, my Magnum P.I. look-alike, wannabe, if you will. Unfortunately, we couldn't leave because the battery's dead. So here we are, trying to get started so we can go out and solve some crimes. Anywho, while we do that, here's this week's top story. I'm glad these things are marked. The FDA has announced plans to cut the annual user fees paid by medical device firms to the agency by roughly 7% across the board next year. A spokeswoman for the agency says, quote, "We are lowering user fees in fiscal year 2012 in order to give back to industry about $9.5 million rather than spend those funds to improve our pre-market review programs," end quote. The annual user fee for medical device companies will be $2,029 in 2012 compared to $2,179 in 2011. For 510K submissions, companies will pay $4,049 per submission compared to the $4,348 they paid in 2011. For pre-market applications, companies will pay $220,000 per submission compared to the $236,000 they paid last year. According to FDA, they will continue to work with small businesses to alleviate this overhead expense. Full details can be found on the FDA website for the Medical Device User Fee and Modernization Act, or just find the link on Beaker's blog. All right, I'm going to guess this is positive. Stand back, Jeremy. Aha! No explosions. Good deal. Worked out. Okay, well, tell us what you think about this story or any story that you see in today's show. It's very simple. Click on the orange button below me. A box will pop up. Type in your comment, send it to me. I promise I'll read and respond to every one of them. Now we'll just have to get this thing going, and we're off to solve a crime. Yeah, if we can find somebody who wants to pay us and all that. And when you're done watching BeakerBeat, check out Beaker's blog and find out when the NIH thinks they will have a universal flu vaccine ready for the world to use. It could come quicker than you think. That story and more on Beaker's blog. So it works. Yay for us. And now we just need to figure out how to drum up some business. You know, in the Magnum show, he was always just kind of hanging around and then the phone rang. Hello. What's that? You lost it, you say? Well, I think we can help you. We're on the case. Nate Higgins, or Rick, or whoever he is. He's my... Anyway, okay, we'll get it. Okay, bye. Awesome. Our first case. Let's go crack this thing. Make a little money. Buy a real Ferrari. Several big pharma players are acting like Grandpa in the Great Depression, stashing away cash under the mattress, so to speak. Among them are Johnson & Johnson, which has recently added another $3 billion to its wallet, giving it about $27 billion total. Not to be outdone, Pfizer has $24 billion in cash lying around, and Merck has stashed away an additional $1 billion this year. Feels like 1935 all over again, eh, Grandpa? You know, that brings up a good point, Jeremy. I don't know what to call you. I mean, do I call you Higgins? You're always kind of around like he was. Kind of annoying. TC? You don't own a helicopter. How about Rick? He was a weaselly bartender. You're not a bartender. How about, oh, I know, the dogs. You're like the dogs. You're relentless, you're always hounding me, and you smell kind of funny. Yeah, that's it. Dogs. With an eye on expanding its drug production capacity, Gaithersburg, Maryland-based MedImmune officially opened its second manufacturing plant in Frederick, Maryland. Construction on the 330,000 square foot facility began in 2006 on the same site as the company's first plant. MedImmune employs nearly 250 people there already and plans to add more staff. The state of Florida and the Sarasota County government will provide rapid pathogen screening $820,000 in performance-based incentives. It's to help the company employ 164 workers in the next 5 years. RPS plans to commercialize 9 new products once it reaches its funding goals. Like a hillbilly buffet, news from Lübeck has been all over the road recently. The company reported strong second quarter sales, up 7%, along with street-beating profits and predictions that full-year numbers would hit their target. But they also announced R&D cuts of 12.5% of staff, or up to 175 people. Then they said they plan to hire up to 300 new sales reps, including some in the U.S. Lübeck's biggest challenge comes late next year as it stands to lose about 90% of U.S. sales of Lexapro due to generic competition. The FDA says proposed funding cuts would trim inspections. According to an FDA official, the House's proposed cuts to the FDA's fiscal 2012 appropriations would mean about 2,000 fewer facility inspections and about 9,000 fewer import inspections as a result of staff cuts. St. Jude Medical is moving its overseas manufacturing of cardiac rhythms management products out of Sweden, laying off 450 employees in the process. Production is being moved to Puerto Rico and Malaysia. Ranbaxy Labs has closed a plant in the U.S. The liquid manufacturing plant in Gloversville, New York was under scrutiny by the FDA for violation of regulatory norms, and approval of new drugs made there had been halted. All right, Higgins. The dogs. Anyway, I think we found a place that will help us solve our mystery. And it's called Food Lion. Rawr. Covidien plans to repurchase company shares to the tune of $2 billion. The announcement comes after the medical device giant posted a 14% increase in sales and 47% jump in profits during the third quarter. Venture capital investments in the U.S. life sciences industry reached $2.1 billion during the second quarter with 206 deals. However, that's a 3% drop from the same period last year, according to a PricewaterhouseCoopers report. But the industry did see an increase in the number of IPOs and M&A deals during the period. Array BioPharma has added Genentech to its growing stable of big-name collaborations. Genentech has agreed to pay $28 million up front, with $685 million in milestones available to gain the rights to develop a preclinical CHK1 program soon to be pushed into phase 1. All right, Higgins and I, Jeremy and I, have solved the case. Here you go. Just what you asked for. Salt.
No, I was just looking for my lost shaker of salt. It's right here.
Really? Researchers have made stretchable, ultra-thin electronics that cling to skin like a temporary tattoo and can measure electrical activity from the body. These electronic tattoos could allow doctors to diagnose and monitor conditions like heart arrhythmia or sleep disorders non-invasively. John Rogers, a professor of materials science at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, has developed a prototype that can replicate the monitoring abilities of bulky electrocardiograms and other medical devices that are normally restricted to a clinical or lab setting. The prototype was equipped with electrodes to measure electrical signals produced by muscle and brain activity. The device can stand up to twisting, poking, and pulling without breaking. Sounds just like Jeremy. Plus, it conforms to the topography of the skin and can be worn for long periods of time without irritating the skin. The device is small enough that it requires only tiny amounts of power, which it can get from tiny solar cells and a wireless coil that receives energy from a nearby transmitter. The researchers are also working on making the device wireless. Anyway, that's it for this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Did you buy margarita mix?
Well, yeah. It's Magnum. He likes to party.
He's from Hawaii, not Mexico.
Sit, Beaker. Sit. Good dog. All right, well, here's my bill.
I'm not paying for this. I found the lost salt shaker.
What are you talking about? I had lots of time and labor and expenses involved. How do you expect me to buy that Ferrari I really want?
I don't.